I guess in the flip side, like a lot of the guys that I was with they were kind of in it for some type of exit benefit of either school or had some guys that were you either go to jail or you sign up for the military. So it's like
I had one of those guys. He was one of my soldiers on my team was that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get guys like that. They're like literally, I guess, drafted to the degree in.
Yeah. But that's the guy you want. You want that guy on your team.
Well,
you need him. So you can always go to that guy and be like, all right, we need a spare tire. I don't know. I don't need to know where it comes from.
True.
Just get me one.
Usually they bring unwanted attention from the leadership because they don't like being told what to do. So it's like, come on, dial it down. Like, if one gets punished, you do 2 or 3 mistakes from that guy, we're all getting punished. And I was like, oh God, just shut up. Just do what they say. Like, come on.
I bought Frankie a coffee, and honestly, it just felt right. Frankie's pod has been such a comfort, something I look forward to every week. You can really feel the heart that goes into every episode. Supporting it through Buy Me a Coffee isn't just about the coffee. It helps cover the hosting, the editing, the software, all the behind-the-scenes stuff that makes the podcast possible. If Frankie's pod means something to you too, I'd really encourage you to chip in. It's a small thing, but it goes a long way. Just head to buymeacoffee.com/frankie'spod. Trust me, it's worth it.
Fire they can't hide, marching through the pass with pride. Frankie's pod is the place to confide. Frankie's pod, uncork the soul, hear the voices, feel it roll. Veteran hearts beating strong. One more story, one more song. Frankie's pod, yeah. Uncooking the unforgettable.
Hi, welcome back to the podcast. Tonight's a bit of a different one for me. These will be, I'm talking to 2 guys, so straight away that's a bit different. It's Lewis and Matt, and they both served in the US Forces. How are you doing, guys? You all right?
Doing well, thanks.
Doing great, thank you.
Thanks for coming on the podcast. Like I said just then, it's a bit of a strange one for me to have 2 guys on, and I don't want you fighting over the stories. let each other have a go. So the aim of the podcast is basically just get an idea about who you are. So when you grew up, why you joined the military, what was it like, why did you leave, and what have you done since? And I know it's that last little bit that I'm quite interested in as well, and I think a lot of people will be. So if you just want to give us an overview, whoever wants to go first, of what it was like growing up and what made you decide to join the military.
Matt, why don't you go ahead?
Sure. Yeah, I joined up after 9/11. So my career was between 2002 to 2006. Had initially no clue what I wanted to do with my life. September 11th, 2001 came around, and I was in basic college, not even university. We're literally talking like some, backwoods college just to get your general education out of the way. That happened, and I just did not like where my life was. I dropped out, didn't tell anybody, but I just stopped going to school. Working part-time for my dad at a meatpacking plant. He calls up the school a couple months later looking for me. They say, well, he hasn't showed up in the last 2 or 3 months. Well, he immediately calls me. Matt, where the hell are you? Oh, I'm at my apartment. Why? I called the school where you're not going? I was like, yeah, I just haven't been going. It's like, you lied to me. Go to hell. Click. I was like, damn. So so I was at a loss of what to do. So I called my mom. My parents were split at the time, and she's like, well, come on over. Let's talk about it. She's like, now don't take this the wrong way, but have you thought about joining the military? I was like, I love the idea of Army stuff and military stuff, but I've never actually given it a real serious thought. And again, this was like just a couple months after 9/11. She's like, well, let's just talk to some recruiters and see what you got. And so I was like, okay. So I talked with the Air Force recruiter, and I thought that was a bit too boring. I wanted to actually like serve and be like on the front lines or do something Army related. Talked to a Marine recruiter, and that's a little too hardcore for me. Like those guys are crazy, man. So I was like, I don't know what else we got. So we talked with the Army recruiter. And at the time, I loved like racing cars and anything with an engine, 4 wheels. I loved it. And so I was like, you know what? I want to like look at the Abrams tank, like be a tanker. I think that'd be awesome. And so they're like, well, you know, you're too tall for the Abrams. It's 6'2" is the maximum height. I'm 6'6". And so, yeah. So I'm like, okay, what's the next best thing? And they're like, well, the Bradley. You can fit in the Bradley. It's got an adjustable seat, so you can go up and down, no problem. I was like, okay. And I watched a video on it. It was literally the most propagandist video you could ever imagine. Like it's a Bradley driving through a river and like guys running out the back and the thing's shooting the cannon. It's jumping over old cars. It's like, wow, I want to do that. So I had no idea. I did the whole, the sign up process, got into the military, and just had no idea what to expect. Went through basic training, and like I'd never even seen the movie, Full Metal Jacket. So I had no idea what basic training was even supposed to be like. I was like, I don't even know. So I was completely confused, but it was a hell of an experience. We actually really, really enjoyed like the last 4 weeks of basic training. I loved it. Because it's just like
basic training for you.
9 weeks long, so about the halfway point.
About the same as ours, yeah.
Yeah, so we're doing like field training exercises and like, marching, 14 miles and full pack and doing simulated ambushes and stuff. I love that stuff. I thought it was great. Like this is the stuff that you see in the movies, and you feel like, okay, I get to actually pull a trigger and become the Army guy. The stuff I hated was the stuff back at base, polishing your boots and cleaning the floors, and like all the we'd have to not mop the floor, but like you could just glaze the floor so it looks like a mirror.
The waxing,
waxing the floor. Thank you. We used the little razor blades to get rid of the old wax film. Screw all that noise, man.
So not different to ours then, because we used to with waxing the floor. We used to have a hand bumper.
Yeah,
a big block.
Yes, totally. Yep.
Oh,
to get the old wax off, we use like the box of razor blades with your hand. And everybody's on the hands and knees scraping that away. And then you have to glaze it overnight. And then you have to make sure nobody walks down the middle of the hallway because it's got to be fresh.
Yeah, but it's the barracks, so everyone's
walking around. So everyone's like walking sideways down the hallway with their socks on to get to like the latrine or something. It's just like,
and there's some like Jerry who doesn't know, and then
everybody shouts, "Get the hell out of the hallway!" Like, yeah. And then you
see what we used to do. We used to have a blanket at each end of the corridor.
Okay.
I walk down it, they'd stand on it. And just shuffle the feet with it. So
that's smarter. Yeah.
Yeah, then we started discovering that you could slide people up and down it really quickly. That got a bit done.
Then start bowling, right?
For sure.
See?
More or less, yeah.
There you go. Nice.
But then the epiphany happened. Once we broke out of training, it becomes basically like you're in like dorm rooms at a college or so, university. It's just like everyone, two people per room, and then you have your own sleeping room. And then you have a common quarters, like
it's not like that anymore, but
no.
then,
that was like when you graduated. Now you're in your base, and you can actually, leave in the evenings and go out on the weekends. And it really was awesome because everyone in the barracks would silo off and start playing video games. And there was 2 different types of video games. There was one half of the barracks is playing like the nerdy shit, like World of Warcraft and Final Fantasy. Screw those guys.
Camelot, Kingdom of Camelot or something, right? That was a big one, something like that.
But I was in the cool kids class, and we were doing Counter-Strike and Call of Duty and the hardcore stuff. So. And so that kind of just spurred this kind of guys in the military are constantly gamers. Like when you're not doing Army stuff, you're in the barracks just hanging with your buddies and gaming it up. So yeah,
I mean,
then
it was a little different in my day. We were all just getting drunk.
yeah,
See, so we would get drunk and play Halo or anything, like in LAN
Yes.
parties, right? So, but yeah,
And
no,
so-
but yeah,
yeah.
so
Yeah,
yeah,
what's it-
so
oh, go ahead.
but yeah, so from my background, I grew up in Maryland, in Frederick, Maryland. There's which is pretty close to DC, like about less than an hour. But actually, my family served in the military going back a couple generations. So, like during World War II, like my mother's father was like a guerrilla fighter. Like he didn't tell us a lot of stories, but he told us one story where how he like had to hide face down in the mud when like Japanese planes were flying overhead and stuff.
Bloody hell.
Yeah, and then my father's mother, she also served, and so like nobody really talks about what she did in World War II. You know what I mean? So we don't really know what she did, but it's kind of like a mystery. Like some of my family speculated, well, maybe she helped pass messages or something. But she got the GI Bill. Is how we know? Like, yeah, for sure. Like she definitely did some service, but no, like it's also like the silent generation, right? So like the silent generation, and they're Asian, so they're not going to tell you squat. You know what I mean? So, but then and then I had uncles who served. Like my uncle Tony, he served in the Marines. My uncle Angelo, he was in the Navy. He actually was part of that like Cuban Missile blockade. Like he was on a ship in that. But like I myself, like I had no interest in joining the military or anything like that. It was like really far from my like scope. You know what I mean? Like there's a fort in the town where I grew up, so I like was aware of like military guys and stuff. It wasn't like I was necessarily intimidated or anything by it. Like it was just a part of the life. I actually went to film school, and it was like after I'd graduated film school, I went to NYU Film, so it was in New York. And then after film school, I moved to Jersey City, which is like across the Hudson River from Manhattan. So like, I was already kind of trying to eke out a living like as a writer and as a filmmaker when September 11th happened. So like I saw that shit like from my apartment window.
Wow.
You know what I mean? So, and like everyone I knew was either on Manhattan at the time or like close to DC or like in the Beltway area, So like it was like the next week, like I'd moved out of Jersey City and I was in a recruiter's office. Like originally I had thought that, so we have a test like you were telling us about earlier. So it's called the ASVAB. So like I scored really well in it, so I was going to try to do like something like military intelligence or something. Yeah. So like, then, when you actually go to sign the papers, it's this whole like kind of processing center thing. And like the recruiter there was like, so the recruiters back in my hometown, they're like, oh yeah, sure, you can sign up for that. But then the ones when I got to that place where you actually sign paper, they're like, well, you have to wait 6 months to do that, but you can become a combat engineer and go right in the 82nd and go right away. You know what I mean? So just like, yeah, sure. Always liked engineering, right? But of course, I think you call it sapper in the UK. Yeah. So in the US, you only call a person a sapper really when they have like the tab, they go through the special school. But it's basically that job. So, so that's what I did. So I deployed also to Afghanistan in what years was it? 02 and 03 early on. And then I got out in 04. So, and then, yeah. So,
I mean, you both mentioned there about the Twin Towers. I mean, I remember. Obviously, it's affected you more than it affected us, But
sure.
I remember the day it happened. I was at work. I was still in the army at the time, and I'd gone home for lunch, like at our time, and come back. And as I walked into the hangar at work with all the vehicles, one of the guys with everyone just stood round in shock, and I was like, "What's the matter?" And I said, someone's just bombed New York. And we were like, what are you going about? And everybody stopped. And we found the TV. We started watching the TV. And literally, even us, like, lowly maggots working on a gun park just went, shit, the world's just changed.
Yeah, absolutely.
We knew that then. And we couldn't comprehend what it was like for yourself. I mean, do you just want to talk about how that whole psyche changed everything in America?
Lewis, you want to hit that one?
Yeah, I mean, I mean, again, like for me, it's interesting because, I don't I don't blame anybody who didn't serve. You know what I mean? I'm not one of those people, right? But it's like my group of friends, I was the only person who enlisted. You know what I mean? So, despite like all of us actually being that, there, seeing it with our eyes, not watching it through, TV and stuff. And like a lot of people like didn't believe that I was gonna do it. Like they'd say things to me like, you're gonna have to like listen to orders. You know what I mean? Maybe that says a little more about my personality or something. But so at the same thing, like it did, like there are certain things that happen, like suddenly there's like so much more security everywhere you go. You know what I mean? That like those change like a lot of the everyday lives of people. And then there was like, this beautiful moment when like everybody loved the country. You know what I mean? Like everybody like united and they're like, everyone is feeling like really patriotic about, trying to defend ourselves, But at the end of the day, like I said, like most people, I don't think they changed too much. You know what I mean? Like a lot of the people that I know stayed on the same trajectory that they're already on, some people I know, they just tried to ignore it. You know what I mean? Like, like one woman, like I was told her, like she called me up. Was like, yeah, I'm moving to New York, this weekend. And I was like, well, I just left. I'm enlisting. And then she just hung up. You know what I mean? She just didn't want to deal with it at all. You know what I mean? So, I mean, again, like it's different for different people. I mean, more the people I knew back from my hometown, like they definitely are, more affected. Like people, in my family. Yeah. Again, because they served, and that's they know what that means, and of course it was funny because they were all trying. Like my uncles were like, "Well, why don't you join the Marines? Let's try the Navy." And I was like, "I'm gonna do the Army thing." It's right here. I don't swim too good, so. But yeah,
I mean, you mentioned there like patriotism. I mean,
yeah,
the experience I've got is that the Americans are a lot more patriotic than the Brits are. If you put a flag out, outside your house, people walk past salute and stuff like that.
Yeah.
If I was to put a George Cross outside my house, right, people would think I was racist.
Yeah. Oh man.
Honestly, it's ridiculous. We feel frowned upon for shouting, England or Scotland. In fact, no, if you're Scottish, you can. If you're Welsh,
okay.
You can. If
there
you're
you
Irish,
go. Yeah,
can.
that's true.
But if you're English, I think it's because we've fucked over most of the world, and everyone's just
but how many of those people who did that are even still alive, though? You know what I mean?
Right.
It's weird.
Let's not get into that one.
Yeah,
right.
Right. Especially in the U.S., right? But yeah, no, like it's a really a lot of it. I think depends on where you live, also. So like in like in New York City. Maybe right now, not too many people are hanging their flags out, their windows or something. You know what I mean? Yeah. But like, one of the things that people don't think about a lot is that something like 70%. This is like ballpark, so internet. Like, and sorry if I'm like rounding up or down here, but something like 70% of the U.S. military comes from the southern states. You know what I mean? So like down here, like everybody's really patriotic. So I don't have to really worry about it, hanging the flag out here and stuff. So, yeah.
How about you, Matt? How did you feel about it all?
Yeah, same thing. Like the world just kind of, it felt like we all went through a portal and it was just like the whole world just kind of changed after that day, right? Like just couldn't believe it was actually happening. It's just like everything just shifted. If it's like a temporal split, like world either continued or 9/11 happened. So it's just feels like that was a big catalyst for a lot of things in my life personally. I just graduated from high school the year before. Again, like I just didn't know what to do. So, and I wasn't so gung-ho patriotic as a sense that I needed to join up. But I thought if I'm going to, I'm going all in. Like I'm not going to sit in the rear with the gear. I want to actually do something. So like I said, I wasn't at a bit of loss what to do with my life just because it felt like I didn't really have any direction. But I always admired and loved people that did serve. Like, I think a year, when did Saving Private Ryan come out? That one was just like, wow, like that was, if I,
It's like 98, I think.
yeah, like the Greatest Generation. I remember, seeing that in the theater, and I was just like blown away. Like, and so I guess when it came to that point of now it's time to sign on the dotted line, I wanted to be in that landing craft. I didn't want to be in the, the boat watching people go into the landing craft. So.
Yeah, I get what you're saying. I don't think I felt that way. I might have done it at the beginning. I fucking did it in the end.
Yes.
I mean, the weird, I wouldn't say the weird thing for me is but I didn't give it much thought until recently when I interviewed one of my old commanders. And he ended up being the commanding officer at our big training establishment. And it was around the time of Iraq and Afghanistan. And he said to me, he goes, you've got to think of everyone who was joining, because he was immensely proud of all his recruits. And he said to me, you've got to think about all these guys who were joining, all lads and lasses who were joining the military, joining the army, the RAF, the navy, whatever. They know that within maybe 6 to 18 months of them signing that dotted line, they're going to be in either Iraq or Afghanistan.
That's
and I didn't give it that much thought because especially as an old sweat who's clubbing, close to the end of his career. You look at recruits and he's like Sprog, Nick, you know what I mean? Or Crow, or whatever other derogatory name you can think of them.
Yeah.
But I'd give them probably the respect that they deserve. But then again, the recruits that do want.
They're still dirtbags, you know what I mean?
Yeah, that's the way it is. It's not until later on when you get a bit more mature and you see it from different eyes and that you think so. You've got to take your hat off to people who do join up. I'm not just going to smoke up your arse and my arse because we did it. It's just the way it is. Whether you join up when I joined in 1985, it was very quiet everywhere. We had Northern Ireland on. I don't know if there was anything going on for the States. I can't really remember.
I mean, what, Panama was around then or something, but
yeah, I think Bay of Pigs was before that, wasn't it? Yeah.
The Bay of Pigs was like 60s.
Somalia was mid 90s, so yeah.
Yeah, I mean, God, yeah. I'll tell you what, totally on a tangent here, right? There used to be a TV show on in the UK called Soldier, right? And it was...
Who's in that? I've heard of that. I've totally heard of that.
Sounds so familiar.
Who's it?
Robson Green and Jerome Flynn.
Okay.
So Jerome Flynn was in Game of Thrones.
Yeah, that's how I know it. It's probably looking up what some Game of Thrones actor.
So they played two soldiers, and I wouldn't say it was true to life, but it was quite close. I think some of the writers must have had an inside knowledge, and it was all filmed like in real barracks, and it had real, it was really, really close to the thing. Well, I always remember there was one bit in it where they did an exchange with the American forces, and they had like an officers' dinner party, and the story was it was to we want to antagonize each other. That was the baseline of this story. But it was one of the officers was saying, well, what have the Yanks done? We've just come back from Bosnia. And Bosnia was shit. It was bad. Yeah. And this other guy looked at me and says, well, I was in Mogadishu.
Yes.
I was just thinking, fucking hell. You know what I mean? Jesus.
Yeah.
Because again, we don't, plus the Brits weren't involved in it at all.
Yeah.
We only get second hand from stuff like Black Hawk Down.
That's
And from what I understand, that's the book, anyway. I don't know about the movie. I don't know how close the movie is, but the book is really close to the actual depiction of what happened. So
I mean, I actually, one of the guys, I think he was depicted in the Black Hawk Down movie. I can't remember his name right now. I think it was Stryker, but he ended up being my chaplain. So like in Afghanistan, we were living in the same tent for a while and stuff. So, but yeah, like, I mean, but at that point too, it's like you've had a movie made about you, so of course you're like, yeah, that's exactly what it was like, man. Except like better looking than that actor.
So what was your first deployments like for you then?
Oh well, so I was in, I deployed in 2002 for Operation Enduring Freedom 2. Again, so in the 82nd as an engineer, so that it was really freaking early. Like, like the place where I spent most of both my deployments. When we first landed, like it was little more than like 3 holes in the ground. You know what I mean? And then like there's like some big pre-existing building in the middle, right? So my team, not even like my whole squad, it was like 4 of us. We were sent to be like engineering support for this. It was forward operating base. That was mostly where like a special forces team was operating out of, and there was also like a company of infantry guys there. So I spent a lot of that first deployment, like helping to build up that place, building up security and stuff, and also just like hiking up mountains and blowing up like weapons caches and stuff. There's always like the village searches going on too. And those are always tons of fun. Like let's wake up in the middle of the night and wake up this town. You know what I mean? So
really cheating them up.
Oh yeah, they love it. Oh, that guy, he forgot his pants. Great. You know what I mean? So, but it was, like I'm still absolutely friends with like some of the guys that, I went to on that deployment with. Like, again, like the life that I'd been living was completely different up to that point. You know what I mean? And also like the people who I'd known were very different, like, cause I 100% know for sure that I'm the first Asian that a bunch of those people in basic training met. You know what I mean? Like, but like there were still, but like some of the people, like some of the people I served with, just like, Chicano guy from El Paso. You know what I mean? Like he's still one of my best friends. I never would have met him otherwise. You know what I mean? Just stuff like that. Like farm boys, like guys who they're straight up corn fed, like, you know what I mean? And they have that like stupid farm strength where like, I don't know if there's like an equivalent expression in like the UK, but it's just like, you grow up on a farm, somehow you're just strong. You know what I mean?
Yeah, it's the same here. Yeah. Some of them, especially the women. Wow.
Yes.
Yeah.
No, I've had. So there's an old tradition in the UK where if you've got like I wouldn't say upper class, but version of upper class, like family, you've got land and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Normally it's the oldest child will inherit the farm.
Yeah.
The second child will go into the military, and the third child will whatever, type of thing. So some of the officer class that used to come through, and I have served with a couple of the ladies who've come from that. Right, and I'll tell you what, I would not want to punch off any of them because they were like you said, we're a different breed. They all played rugby,
of course,
football, but rugby.
Yeah.
Nice.
Very different game.
Yes,
but let's not get into that.
Why not? Like our U.S. team had a captain on it, like in the Olympics this past Olympics.
My son used to play American football a few years back, and he dragged me to a game.
Okay.
So dragged me. I had to drive him to it, and I took him, and I sat there for nearly 3.5, nearly 4 hours, going,
what's going on?
Yeah.
Why are you passing
no,
the
you know
ball?
what? It's cool. Like it's like us watching rugby. Like I don't know what the hell goes on in scrum. Like what is that? It's just like everybody's hugging.
I was I'm sat there shouting, "Pass the ball," and they're like,
there you go.
What?
Don't get me started about cricket either, man. Like,
oh my gosh.
Hey, I'm not. I don't even understand cricket.
Yeah.
Okay.
There you
Fair.
go.
Not my type of thing. So about you, Matt? What was your first deployment like?
Yeah, so funny enough, after training, I was attached to the same training school I went to. They attached me to that, and it was such a buzzkill because all the guys I was training with went to their proper duty stations.
Yeah,
and so it came up that they needed basically, Lewis, I don't remember what it's called. Like it's basically if you're not at full strength of a unit, but you get like people to fill the slots.
Yeah, it's like TDY guys or something.
Yeah, so I volunteered for this to be deployed, but you had to wait in line to see which unit needed help of your MOS. So MOS is your job description, and for me, I was a Bradley linebacker crew member, and the linebacker is the version of the Bradley that's an air defense version. So we shoot down helicopters and planes. That's the whole point. So the unit of the Third ID was getting deployed, and those were a lot of guys I did go through training with went to that unit, and so I got attached to them, but I didn't go with them from their duty station, I met them in Kuwait in the middle of the desert. So it was kind of a weird thing. So I arrive and I get all my stuff and gear, and some guy picks me up like an Uber, but he's driving a Humvee. He's like are you Private Patak? Yeah, okay, cool. Like, get in. Okay, cool. Drive into the middle of the Kuwaiti desert, and there's just like it looked like a circle of wagons, just a bunch of Bradleys in a circle. It's just like, okay, you're with these guys. And it's like, oh, hey guys, like, remember me from training? What the hell are you doing here? Like, I felt like such an outsider. It's like, okay, this is great. But I knew these guys, but now I had to prove myself. And so, yeah, I was there March of 2003 in Iraq. So almost a year after I signed up, was in the middle of the Kuwaiti desert. March 20th, 2003, D-Day, we got the go.
Yeah,
I was in that. Yeah.
I think we were firing for you. I know we covered
Yes.
for 1 infantry, 1 meth, I think it was.
Okay. Yep.
Meth?
We're the third ID. The blue and white stripes. That was us, third ID. So, yeah, like I remember leaving that base camp. The British and the Australians came with us, and we all rolled out, and that was great to see. It was like, hell yeah, like a big communal fight. But then, like, I remember specifically the Germans and the French were sitting back at base, like, see you guys later, and we're rolling out, like getting ready to get deployed. We're like, fuck you guys, like. Bunch of pansies, if you ask me, but it was hilarious. But yeah, it was great. Like, we felt like the coalition. Like yeah. Personally, I didn't want to go to Iraq. Like, that was not where I felt the fight was. In hindsight, being 2020, obviously it wasn't. But I wanted to go to Afghanistan, but you can't really, decide where you want to get deployed to. So it's like they told me to go there, I go there. So so D-Day, we started rolling, and I remember I brought a portable DVD player, and as we're crossing the border, and I had those Kodak cameras that you click and
disposable.
And I had a choice: either take a picture of the border of Iraq as we're passing through, or put on "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor" on the DVD player and crank the tunes loud. So I picked the obvious one, "Let the Bodies Hit the Floor," and I got the whole crew to get a vibe. Which was hilarious. We fired no shots basically the entire war. So everyone surrendered. Everyone just threw their hands up. We're done. We're not fighting.
Yeah.
It's like, we don't even want to fight for Saddam anyway. It's like, oh, come on.
Come on, doesn't go.
Yeah, exactly. Like, we train this whole time. And again, like, you watch, like, Saving Private Ryan, Black Hawk Down. It's like, oh my God, this is my time. Right? This is my time.
The training, it really winds you up.
It winds you up, man. They juice you up big time.
Yeah. Because that's the thing. So I actually, because even, my unit actually also trained to deploy to Iraq also. And this is after, our second deployment to Afghanistan or something, right? And then, so we took all this training, and then it was like a week before, they told us, oh, sorry, you guys aren't going. You know what I mean? And dudes had already sent their wives home. They'd ended their leases and stuff, So that was really disruptive to the unit. But, just a lot of people, I'm sure, were pretty relieved, including those wives who got sent home. So,
I mean, I deployed quite early on.
Yeah.
There, because I went out with the advance party. And there was all our vehicles came over on a ship. Basically.
Yeah.
What not about it was wrong. There's that ship. Sink it. Literally.
Yeah.
Everything came over on a ship, and we were just unloading it and loading it and loading it.
Yeah.
And like you're saying there, Matt, about stood in the middle of the desert. We were there for weeks and weeks and weeks, months. I can't even remember how long it was.
Yep.
And the night before the invasion, we moved down to another area. And we'd set up there the whole, because we were, artillery, the whole battery had set up. The battery was over there, and the battery was somewhere else.
Yep.
And we sat there, and we dug our little shell scrapes, and we were all, shit. So all of a sudden, we looked up, and we were quite close to the main road. And I just remember seeing all the UN vehicles just driving down the road away from the border, and we all just looked at it and went, fucking hell, we're going in.
It's going on.
Because we've been there for ages going, we'll be hurrying up.
That's right. I remember how long.
Hurry up and wait.
And then moved. And the next morning, they came to us, took the sat phones off, took all our personal belongings away. We were like, right, it's happening. And we moved across the border into Safwan, set up the position there, and then we were moving. Obviously, as usual, going north, we were going towards Basra. So I was doing recce for the battery then, and we set up GPS points for the guns. So we moved forward, and they said, right, you've got to go up. And I don't know if you had seen it like this before, but it's the first time I'd seen like a main MSR with everything, every military vehicle in a fucking bomb on it. And I'm in a battered old 432, which is a shitty old armoured personnel carrier that we have.
Yeah.
Built in the
Like
60s.
the 113 style, yeah.
Yeah, exactly, but older.
Okay.
Like really old.
Nice.
And I'm driving now. I've pulled out one of this MSR, and I'm just like, I've never seen so many vehicles in my life.
Oh yeah.
Ever. And nothing was stopping; it was just flying.
Yeah.
The convoy was crazy.
Yeah, it was mental. We would, what they call them, the marine amphibious ones,
Labs.
massive thing.
Yeah, the labs.
I pulled up next to one of them, and I'm like, that. What's that? Whoever's like in that one's like looking down and they go, what's that?
Yep.
It's massive.
Nice.
So, and we were cutting them up and in and out of them and stuff like that, and it was great. And I say it was great. It was one of the most impressive things I've ever seen. Apart from we were shooting forward, everyone stopped. So we were like, "What's happening? Why are we all stopped?" And there was a tank battle going on in front of us. We were just like, "Oh." And some of the wagon, and we just sat. Oh, look at that over there! The brew and that, and it was just right. Crack on again. That's straight after that. But I'd never seen anything. But like you said, I never fired a shot, and nobody I know until after the war finished, and it got a bit naughty down around in Basra and places like that, where it started getting the insurgents and stuff like that.
I got out of there before that happened. Thank God, yeah.
But it was weird, as it was happening, right? You said you had the little disposable cameras.
Yeah.
So I was taking over a digital camera, and one of the officers gave me his digital camera. So I made like a video of it all.
There you go.
It's on YouTube if you look up. It's under D Battery 3 hour chair. There's a video on YouTube of that, and it's from the start to finish from our perspective.
That's interesting. That's really cool.
And because I was doing that, all of a sudden I started right. Don't come over here. I'm like, oh, come with me, and I'm getting dragged off. Got your camera? I want to be. Type of thing. There was lots of that. So I ended up to see different things, and where the locals were, and they were over the moon to see us.
Absolutely, that's one thing I wanted to touch on. Yeah, we got high fives, thumbs up. Like I'm assuming that's a good sign. Like who knows if it's the other thing, right?
Oh, no.
But like everyone was happy. Everyone was happy. Like we had a guy at our checkpoint in Baghdad. Every morning he would bring us a block of ice, like the size of a watermelon, to put in our cooler to cool our water. Like we didn't have any ice at all, so we had giant bottles of water that we were supplied, but nothing to cool them. Like everyone was like, "Good to see you. Saddam's out. Everyone's happy. This is great." So,
and then what we should have done was go right. So he's like, and fuck off.
Exactly.
But
they've made far too many promises. Like, it was a big crap show if you ask me. But after the fact, but
I say that a lot of people. The way I look at it is whether we were right or wrong for going in there. Weapons of mass destruction.
Yes.
Where are they? We're still looking for them now.
That's right.
Whether that's right or wrong, we went there and we did our job, and we did it to the best of our ability, and we beat another army.
That's right.
That's our job. That's
absolutely.
That's what we're supposed to do. We're not going to walk and go, "Hey, how are you doing?" We're going to go, "Hey, we're going to kill you if you don't get out the fucking way."
Yeah.
So we did, and then they all got out of the way, and we won. After that, I took little, blah blah blah. I'm just an old fat bloke sat in an old piece of England. I can't make the decisions or really comment on the political side of it, anything like that. I don't care.
That's right.
Did my bit, and I'm happy with that.
So it's funny that you mentioned, because in Afghanistan, it was during my second deployment that I saw the shift happening. Like there was a command thing where our overall mission changed from I can't remember what it was, but it was seek out and destroy Taliban Al-Qaeda forces, right? And then suddenly then one day they came down, we're changing this to prevent operations by Taliban and Al Qaeda forces, and then it's sort of like, oh, so I should maybe think about buying real estate here, huh? We're gonna be a while, So, yeah.
Yeah, there was a shift, wasn't there? I mean, I'm lucky.
Absolutely.
I'm lucky, and I say I'm lucky that I never went to Afghan. I was too old and infirm by then. Yeah, I've spoke to loads of guys from our military who've been out there, and I mean, only last week I was talking to a guy who lost both legs and his arm.
Oh, jeez.
From nearly, basically stepping on an improvised
ID, yeah.
device.
Yep.
I've spoken to other guys. One of the lads got shot in the head. Right, and call him Alex. Funniest bloke you ever meet in your life. He's brilliant, honestly. I love him to death. But just shit like that, I'm thinking, did I miss out? No, I fucking didn't.
No.
Not in the slightest. But I think a lot of the Afghan veterans in the UK feel probably let down. Not
really?
Retreat or anything, or trip, or anything when they go back, I mean, if you look back and you look like your guys got treated in Vietnam, or when they got back to Vietnam,
Yep.
right?
Yep.
And then all of a sudden, you coming back from Iraq and places like that, and the perception of the military changed in America, and people started to appreciate them more, and thank you for your service. When anyone says that,
For sure.
In the UK, nobody does that?
It's not really. It's very, very rare that anyone does it.
That's
Very
interesting.
rare. You'd walk through.
Well, how much of the population actually serves there? Like for the US, it's like 2% or something is veterans.
There's about 8 of us. And I don't mean 8%. There's about 8 of us altogether. That's what it feels like at the moment.
Yeah.
It's not the smallest army we've ever had. I think it's 70,000 at the moment.
Okay.
It's smaller than it was when Napoleon said, "Hey, I'm going to have a go."
Oh my gosh!
Wow.
That's
we are
interesting.
the smallest we've been for years.
Holy cow.
I didn't know that.
Fucking ridiculous.
Yeah,
But
no, because I mean,
not going into that.
yeah, no,
Yeah.
like,
So you'll just get me on a rant. And
Yeah.
I would believe that for sure.
No,
But-
it's really small. It's ridiculous. I mean, mind you saying that, we've got 2 aircraft carriers.
mm-hmm.
At one point, we had no planes for them.
Okay,
No, seriously,
that's-
we didn't.
Yeah.
But these new aircraft carriers and the planes, the Harriers that we had, the Harrier,
yeah,
plane, didn't work on them. What do you mean it didn't work on it? Somebody got to go up and down.
Yeah.
It's a big cluster, as
Yeah.
would say,
Oh, that's hard.
we used to watch like how the public treat you. You walk through an airport and everyone gets some claps their hands and stuff like that.
Yeah.
Whether it's the UK reserve, but that fucking never happened here.
Okay.
But I've been told that that's like
Such a
kind of
shame.
waned off now. It doesn't happen as much.
Here
I mean,
in
I
the
guess
US,
Yeah.
it's hard to tell. Again, like I do think the U.S. is big, so it also depends on where you are. So like,
sure.
so like after I got married, in 07, I moved to San Francisco, and like that was still like we were mired in Iraq at the time. You know what I mean? Afghanistan might have still been going on, and people were less like pessimistic or looked down on that like a little less. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like that one, I guess more people. The sentiment was that that one was more justified than Iraq, I guess. But like, I literally couldn't get a job in San Francisco until I took my military service off my resume. Like I just pretended I'd never served, and then finally, okay, great, you get a job as like a a dog's body here, But yeah, like that's literally what I had to do. And then in New York, it like I was fortunate in that people who I'd worked for, and this is just like retail, but people whom I'd worked for before I signed up before September 11th, like they hired me again. You know what I mean? Like when I'd moved back. Like if it wasn't for them, I probably would have had to figure out something else like outside of the cities. So
Yeah, I mean the perception in the UK was much the same as what you almost touched on then, was like Afghan was justified. We're there doing a job, it's great. Iraq was great. We won. Then all of a sudden, where's the...
why are we still there? Yeah.
What's happening? And I wouldn't say it became... I've kind of compared it to our Vietnam all of a sudden. When we
Okay.
people were like, no, you shouldn't be there anymore. The left, appeared and said, this, that, and the other. It doesn't matter. But the only time that really showed in the UK, I think, was when anyone was any of the bodies were repatriated. They would come to a place called Bryce Norton, always coming to the same RAF base.
Okay.
And they would be brought out in the hearses, and they'd drive through a place called Wootton Bassett. That's going to be a longer thought thinking about it now. And every time that anybody drove through Wootton Bassett, the whole village would come out and stand on the road.
That's great.
In silence. And then as more and more guys were coming back, the crowds got bigger and bigger and bigger. And in the end, it got the Queen changed the name of the village base. It's now called Royal Wootton Bassett. And it just made everything. It did so much. It brought everything to the fore. I wouldn't say advertised what was happening, but it did advertise what was happening.
Yeah, like in a way,
and it showed it
get
to
that aware out there.
Yeah, and it showed it to the wider population, and then all of a sudden we started getting a bit more respect because, I mean, as I've explained before, we started recording. I've been in the army. I think Ben Eyre was in the army when I joined. It's that long ago. And over the years, no matter where we've served, whether it be UK or Germany or wherever, we always got like third-class citizens. Almost, like join the army, you can't do a proper job.
Yeah,
in the army, you want to kill babies and shit. Yeah, like I want to kill a baby. I have to join the army. Don't do it.
Oh yeah, I was called a baby killer. Yeah, for sure. I didn't fire a single bullet.
Yeah, I mean,
I
spent
that's
7 years in the army. And I never fired a bullet.
Nope.
Yeah.
Weapon.
No, and that's the thing. Like, it's hard. So that's the thing too. So like a lot of the. Like I always, my answer to them is always like, when I was in Afghanistan, every week we, swept the schoolyard for landmines and IEDs so little girls could go learn to read. You know what I mean? That's what my service really was, Yep. So, I mean, and there's all this, there's all this other mission that's like, a lot of times you're not even really trained for it. You know what I mean? That like you end up doing like a lot of this, like it ends up being humanitarian stuff.
Yeah, we call hearts and
for
minds.
sure.
So,
Yeah,
exactly. The hearts and minds thing. But so that's why I always felt like, well, we at least did as much good as we did bad wherever we go. You know what I mean? So
how do you feel about that, man?
Yeah, I would say the same thing. Like I felt like with my deployment, absolutely. Like to clarify, I did fire bullets in training, but never deployed, never in at any real human target. So I felt like I brought more good because of my deployment than if I had not been there, in my opinion. So like I was not there to conquer, to kill, to destroy. I was just there to play my part and help in what way I could. And I thought the liberation outside of like if you want to like define a fascist regime, it was Saddam Hussein's regime. It's literally they were modeled after the Nazis through and through. Like that's how Saddam modeled his entire setup. So it's like once they were ousted, and we, like you said, like everyone was overjoyed. It was literally that feeling like I did something good in this world. I actually brought liberation to people that needed it. And what happened obviously next is a different story, but for me personally, that's what the chapter of my life, that's what that meant to me. So
what made you both leave the military?
Yeah,
ended up spending too much of my time in the military mowing lawns. You know what I mean? Like it's got to be like such a pain in the butt, like all the bureaucracy and the administrative stuff. Like
the admin stuff. Like
I mean, like in the 82nd, like there's the 82nd it's different than a lot of other units, because basically like you train so that you could be anywhere in the world in 18 hours. You know what I mean? Like you see them now, like they're like Trump becomes president, boom, they're at the border in Mexico. You know what I mean? Like so
you mentioned him, I didn't. I said I wasn't going to mention him.
Sorry, yeah, but just saying that's where they went. So, but that's what it is. So like it's a different kind of tempo, but it's also like the standard there. Like if I'm like talk a little smack here, like the standard in that unit was kind of held higher because you had to do that. And I'm sure you guys know from like all the bureaucracy stuff, like your vehicle needs to be in the very specific kind of shape. You know what I mean? It needs to have X, Y, and Z. So like, you know, like to do that, there'd always be like, when I was in, there were always 3 different units that would rotate through. Who's the one that's like basically on call, who's training, and then who's just kind of like maintenance, you know what I mean? And like, basically, like, you would always end up stealing like vehicle parts from each other. Like, it would go this weird like roundabout thing. So just so you could make sure that you were ready to deploy, you know? But I don't know. So like, but then like on top of that, you have the base had to look a certain way, you know, like we had to have our boots shined a very specific way and pressed. And it was just like, you know, like it's a great show. And it's definitely like, I get it when people are like proud of that kind of stuff, but it just wasn't for me. You know, like I'd considered re-enlisting and going into a different MOS, a different job, you know? But also like, and then this is like straight up, because I had enlisted when I was 23, which like now that I'm like in my 40s, it doesn't sound like it's very old, but like to go airborne when you're 23, like that was freaking hard, you know? And so I also realized, okay, if I'm going to stay in this unit, I'm going to have to start like doing some gear, you know what I mean? Like, or so the question was like, all right, am I going to like start medicating myself with all these like supplements, you know, or should I get a different job or just get out? So that's kind of what I did.
How about you, Matt?
Yeah, it's funny. Like, yeah, admin. Like, I just didn't like the whole. Like, again, like I love army shit, like blowing stuff up, shooting guns, you know, field training exercises. You know, it was great. But again, when I got back from Iraq, because I was one of the first, I guess, younger privates to come back from a deployment, and so I had a combat patch on my arm, which was like not even seen since the guys from 1991, the Gulf War. Mm-hmm. So like they immediately took me and put me in as a assistant instructor in the Bradley training program. So I was like the big brother.
Hell.
Yeah. So I'm like going from a war zone back to the United States to now train the new guys coming through that would then get deployed. But I was again, like I made corporal. That was the highest rank I got. Yeah. So for me, it was just like to have, you know, these kids were like 1 or 2 years younger than me, like say, Eddie's, like go to like attention basically for me was like, oh, carry on, like please. So I was stuck in this admin role the whole time, you know, polishing your boots night and day. Like you had to look, yet like your room had to be ready for inspection in the barracks on a call. Like the surprise inspection, you know, they're going to check the dust and what's this, you know? So I just got kind of tired of it. And again, like cycling back to the video games in the barracks, that just kind of like, okay, like I know I want to do graphics, 3D, something like this. So that's kind of what drove me out of the army in a sense. And then like Lewis said, I was this close to re-upping, like re-signing back up. And I was like, I told the guy I wanted to go back in as a Ranger, U.S. Army Ranger. And you could have seen his eyes light up. Yes. Okay. I got him. Because it's like nobody wants to go back in as infantry. Like they want something more, you know, cushy. It's like, I was like, I want to. And then I just thought about it. Like my mom will kill me if I do that. Like, because I told her I'm getting out if I sign up as a Ranger. Like, which I've always loved the Rangers. Like for me, it's just like something I've always wanted to do. But I guess I loved tanks and vehicles better. But yeah, I was like, okay, I'm done. So couldn't do it again.
I mean, for myself, I just got too old.
Yeah,
we're only allowed to stay in so long. 22 years.
I did 4 years and then 4 and done. Yeah, for me it was enough.
Yeah,
so.
But I owed the army a little bit of time. So if you go AWOL, you've got to do that time again. If you go to jail for being AWOL, you've got to do that time again. If you go AWOL again, you've got to do that time again. So I owed the army 396 days. So I had to do all that on top of my time. And then I got extended. I didn't mind. It's a fucking job, you know what I mean?
Okay, there you go.
I know what you mean about bullshit. I mean, the worst it was ever for me was I was actually painting grass. And I know that's...
Oh, nice.
Like, people, we say it to people all the time, and everyone says, like, is that a modern myth? Is that an urban myth? No. I have painted grass green.
Yeah.
So it looks fresher. You know, stuff like that.
That's wild.
You know, spray paint or with a brush?
Spray paint? British Army, mate, we can't afford spray paint.
And so these little brushes, you know.
Don't. I've seen guys painting Land Rovers with toothbrushes for
Okay.
no.
Oh,
That's
man.
brutal.
clean them and stuff like that. It could be
I
cool.
did have to rake sand once in in Afghanistan. So that's the lowest it got for me. But yeah.
So when we leave the military, we go through a resettlement package. You know, to try and get your courses that you can do. To be honest, it's not very good.
Yeah.
You know, and there's a lot of gripes and moans about it. And you know, for me personally, it was kind of fingers to space type of thing. But what about you? When you leave the military, because the way, right, I don't know if this is like the modern myths or not.
Mhm.
The way we see the American forces is that you've got. This is not meant to be derogatory, right? But you've got a load of
Please.
underprivileged people getting thrown into the military, and they only join the military because they're going to get put through college when they get out.
That's right.
I take it that's bollocks, or is that?
Pretty much.
It's
yeah,
pretty much true, yeah.
Oh,
mean,
right, okay.
But no, I don't know. I think it's bullshit. I mean, there are definitely people who I met who like were, you know, they wanted the GI Bill and that's what they went in.
Yes.
Like at the time, like I think it was Illinois. Like if you served in the military and you went to Illinois, you would get a full ride. Just like that's what the state was doing. Don't quote me on that. I can't remember which. I'm pretty sure it was Illinois. But that said, you know, like plenty of the people who I went with, like, and who they never, you know, like when they came out, they didn't do it for college. You know what I mean? And like I said, like the people who I deployed with are all walks of life. You know what I mean? Like I was a doctor's son. You know what I mean? So it, you know, not really working class, but definitely, like I said, farm boys and stuff. But like other people too, like, you know, they're coming what we call middle class. You know, like so it's different. Like some people definitely, you know, like I took advantage of the GI Bill afterwards, even though I already had a degree, but I went and just took some business classes. Yeah, no, I mean, it's some of the things. Yeah. But I mean, one of the things, it was weird though. So, you know, the VA, Veterans Affairs, is the office in the US, right? So we do get certain benefits that, like, you know, that I definitely took advantage of, like if they help you buy in a house, you know what I mean? Things like that. Okay. So yeah. But then also, normally you also get like medical benefits, you know? So like a lot of people, you know, especially like if, you know, there's some kind of level of disability, you know, the payments would come through like the VA. You also get VA healthcare, like certain things. So, but like when I ETS, when I left the military, it was still like Iraq was still going on. Like a lot of casualties were coming over. Like the VA system was just too overwhelmed. So basically they're like, all right, well, if you're leaving the military in this 6-month window and you don't have any like conditions from your military service, you don't get VA medical. Right. And so like, I'm like one of the few people like who have no VA medical benefits. Like I can't go to one of their dentists or anything. And it's like, and I've gone back over the years and checked. And so like, can I get benefits now? And they're still like, no, you can't. So
yeah, that's harsh, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's weird.
Absolutely.
No, because there'll be people at work, you know, because also, you know, like the insurance system is what we have for our healthcare here too. And a lot of people get it through their employers, right? But if you're only working a bunch of part-time jobs or something, you know, your employer's not going to give you anything, right? So like one of my employers, like after I'd gotten out, they're just like, are you sure you can't like get some VA help or something? I was like, nah, I can't. So it's a weird thing. So
how about you, Matt? What was it like leaving?
Yeah, I guess on the flip side, like a lot of the guys that I was with, they were kind of in it for some type of exit benefit of either school or had some guys that were, you either go to jail or you sign up for the military. So it's like,
I had one of those guys. He was one of my soldiers on my team was that guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
So you get guys like that. They're like literally, I guess, drafted to the degree.
But that's the guy you want. You want that guy on your team.
Well,
you need him. So you can always go to that guy and be like, all right, we need a spare tire. I don't know. I don't need to know where it comes from.
True.
Just get me one.
Usually they bring unwanted attention from the leadership because they don't like being told what to do. So it's like, come on, dial it down. Like, if one gets punished, if you do 2 or 3 mistakes from that guy, we're all getting punished. And I was like, oh God, just shut up. Just do what they say. Like, come on. But yeah, so on the exit, I did use the GI Bill, which was funny enough with my situation. I was a bit not older, but I didn't have a degree. So I had no education really to fall back on except for high school when I graduated in 2000. So for me, like when I got out, most of my high school buddies that never joined, they'd already got their 4-year degree. And so for me, it's like I was a bit behind the curve. So I was like, okay, I need to do this quickly. So I got approved to go to this accelerated game design college, literally a college. Like it's just like that's all they do. There's just that one form of schooling. And so for me, it was just, it was because it was an accelerated program. The VA or the GI Bill is only based off of physical time. So they'll pay for your 4-year college, but if you complete that in 2 years, regardless of how much it costs, you owe another 2 years worth of money. And so I was like, I didn't realize that till it was too late. So while I had a GI Bill, they only covered half of my school, which it is what it is. But I did get the VA medical, which it's actually was really good. Like some of the VA medical centers are really quite nice. Other ones are kind of sad and depressing because like there's still a bunch of Vietnam veterans lingering around there. They're all in the waiting line, and guys just, looking really worse for the wear. And I got out of Iraq with no PTSD, no issues like that, no medical disability, no nothing. So yeah, a lot of people were not as fortunate.
So for us in the UK, I know this is like transgressing a bit and going off another
go for it.
The medical,
you
know, where you'll need insurance and this that. I just don't fucking get it. I don't understand why you've got it. We pay for national insurance. If I stub my toe, I can walk down the hospital and go, "Can you look at this for us?" And I'll go, on the wait list for I can go.
Well, that's the thing too. Like, how long are your wait? Because Matt and I both lived in Europe. You know what I mean? We were both in Sweden for a while. You know what I mean? Well, he was in there a lot longer than I was. Only there a couple years, and but honestly, like the we don't have the same kind of waiting generally. You know what I mean? That we had in Sweden, that we have in the States, and I'm sorry, I have to talk smack about like the dental care I got in Sweden. Like I lost a crown when I arrived. And then but every 3 months, the crown that the Swedish dentist gave me just popped off, So I kept having to go back every 3 months to the Swedish dentist. So I think the level of care is different as well.
Yeah. Yeah, I'll harken that as well. Sweden was a different. I lived there for 13 years. I got a decent experience with their medical system. Pros and cons, but I think there is something to be learned. And I agree to a degree with you, Frank, about I think there should be some type of access for those that really do need it, because there is a big old slap in the face when you get hit with that medical bill at the end of the day. Like you're not going to get denied your treatment, but what comes next is a shocker. And that's what I guess been personally blessed with the VA, is because every time I go in, I'll leave and I won't see a bill. There's nothing. I'll get my medicine, whatever I got in the whole checkup, everything. They'll give me the works and nothing. I don't pay a single cent. However, there is the lines, and then at certain VA clinics in the more populated veteran densities, it is a bit disturbing because these people really do need help, but they're so backlogged. It's crazy. So that's a fear for a lot of Americans, is that you federalize most of their, I guess, what's it called? You make a lot of the services free to the public, and it's just going to inundate people with crazy waits, and the quality would dip. I get that part, but I think there still needs to be something at the base for those that really do need it. For I get cancer, surgeries, big stuff that would really, obviously, if someone's going to the cough and cold, usually you want them, they did this all the time in Sweden, was drink tea and move on. Right, get out of here. You'd wait. And then
no, it was funny. Once my kid had a tooth issue. One of my kids had a tooth issue in Sweden. They went to the dentist that I have him check it out, and she was just like, just have him chew some caramels. Little tooth will get stuck.
Yeah. But I busted open my leg in a bicycle accident. Stupid story, but I cracked open my leg and it was just gushing out blood. It wasn't in any pain. It felt nothing. It was just, I must have hit a vein or something. I just was pouring out. Yeah. And I showed up to the emergency room, and it was packed. We're saying slam packed full of people, like literally, take a number, and like you pull it and it's like 12 or like 1,200 and it's like 12 on the board, right? It's like, damn. But because I was bleeding everywhere and I was just like, literally just like, hey, can you fix my leg? Like, oh shit, get this guy going. And so they put me in the waiting room and I was like, okay, this will be about 20, 30 minutes. And like 2 minutes later, they come out and they call my name. And I had the same name as, I guess, another guy in the waiting room who'd been waiting there forever. And I saw the Swedish guy, hoorah! And he's like, Matthias Patak. I'm like, oh, that's me. He's like, oh, for fun. Like, oh. It's like, hilarious. I was like, sorry. But
sorry, mate, I'm bleeding more. Bugger off.
yeah, it's like, so they'll prioritize to that degree. And I think that should be something that I'm of two different positions, but I see the ins and the outs of both. So.
Yeah.
I mean, the downside of it is over here that, all right, we do have some massive waiting list, depending on where you live in the UK. So where I live in the UK, there's about 8 of us or 9 of us live here. And 85 hospitals type of thing. But no, it's pretty good. It's not too bad.
There you go. That's ideal. That's what you want.
That you end up getting what we call healthcare tourism. Basically,
I've
people
heard about
come here,
this. Yep.
To get treatment, and bugger off again, and that puts a burden on the thing. Well, that's one into deep politics and shit like that.
Yeah.
Is it still an issue?
Left the military,
oh, sorry.
Sorry. Go on.
Is it still an issue with I don't Brexit with the thing? Is it still an issue with that? Still.
Brexit? Never heard of it. I don't know.
All right.
Whoops.
We'll avoid that one. Yeah.
Right.
But is medical tourism still a thing? It probably if it is.
And it will
be.
be.
Okay.
We'll never turn anyone away. So somebody rocks up and goes, right, I've got, I need you to have a look at me. All right.
Yeah.
Oh shit, you've got lymphatic cancer.
Oof.
You sort it out for us then. I'm not going to say no. In my view, sure. But say, right, whatever. But you'll find that. You see, I was under the understanding again. You end up seeing too many things online. TikTok being one of them, and whatever. And you just, it's all this shite just going into your brain that you believe it all, and it's not like that. So there was a young lass who ended up working at our place for a while who just emigrated from South Africa.
Okay.
And again, I had a girlfriend last year.
There you go.
No, she don't.
Her loss.
She was from Ukraine.
Okay. All right. Okay.
They didn't get free medical straight away.
Interesting.
But the last from South Africa didn't. So they had to pay extra contributions on top of their national insurance. So it's paid for to a certain degree. Over a certain period of time, then once they get nationality, then it's different.
That's interesting.
Like that. So they do claw back some things in different ways. So all right, you've left the military. What was next?
You go ahead, Matt. So
I was game design school, and I got my first job in the game industry. So for me, it was following my passion and using just motivation, like. Of leaving the military, like I said, the whole admin position was not vibing with me, and I knew this wasn't a career that I wanted. I wanted a career that I use this cliche, like I wanted to look forward to Monday instead of looking forward to Friday kind of thing. It's like, So for me, I was just like, I'm going to put my head down. I'm going to go to school for game design, and I found out that I'm really good at making environments and levels pretty quickly compared to most of the kids I was in school with, and I made a big old portfolio, and I applied to a position. I really admired the Cry engine, which is the Crisis 1, Crisis 2, all that stuff. And I applied to work as a junior level designer at Crytek in Budapest. They had an open position. And I'm from Nebraska, so this is like we have more cows than people there. It's like it's just cows and corn, that's all we got. And it's just like I'm a kind of a country kid, but I love technology, I love video games, but so I just didn't believe that I would actually land this job. Applied to it and just like thought nothing of it. Like it's just like applying to like being like the hall, like the championship winning team. You're not going to get it, but Suddenly I got an email back saying, hey, we want you to take a test. Okay, so I took a test, sent it back. Hey, we want to have a phone call interview. I'm like, oh, what, with me? I'm like, what, really? Like, okay, let's do this. I had the phone call interview, went incredible. Got an email saying, hey, we want references and your time's available when you can come to Budapest. I was like, oh, hell yeah. Like, what the hell? Couldn't believe it that I was actually some, backwoods kid from Nebraska. This is going to sound so American. I didn't even know where Budapest was on the map. I knew it was somewhere. I knew it was somewhere in Europe. If I dropped a nuke, I might hit it, but I don't know. But like, I knew it was somewhere that I just didn't know. I was like, what side of the road do they drive on? What kind of music do they listen to? What do they do there? I have no idea. And so I Googled all this, and I'm there with my mom. She's like, well, I don't even know either. Like, it's like, okay, what? I've never been to Europe in my life, and I get flown across the Atlantic and land in Budapest for a job interview. And this is funny. I didn't think it was an interview. I thought I had the job before I even went there.
Right.
Yeah. So I didn't even know. So I got to the job site, to the office, and they're like, so we got some questions that we want to ask you. And it's like, okay, shoot, like, let's just get through these questions so I can start working. What's going on here? I don't understand. And he's like taking this so seriously, and I'm like, what are you doing? Like, he's like, out of these pictures here, which one do you think we chose as like an avenue to go down? I was like, obviously number 3. He's like, that's right. I'm like, okay, come on, let's go. And they're like, okay, the interview's done. Go talk with HR. So I go and talk. Oh, okay, I'm going to talk with HR. I'm like, we're going to book your flight back tomorrow. I was like, flight back? What are you talking about? Like, I'm here to work now. I had told all my friends, my family, and everyone, peace out. I'm going to Budapest. And I didn't even have the damn job. But I didn't understand it. I was like, you don't need to do that. I'll save you guys money. Just put me up in the company hotel, which is like a company flat that they had there just right across the street. And I'll just, hang out until the immigration process is done. And they're like, okay. So they did that. And I go into the office every day to touch base with the boss. And I'm in the lunch break room, and the HR lady comes in. She's like, I think we made a choice. I'm like, oh, really? I'm like making my breakfast. Like, what did you decide? I don't understand. She's like, we're going to go with you and the French guy. Like, so there's other candidates. I'm like, huh. Oh, shit. I didn't have the job. Like, what? Oh, my God. That would have been so embarrassing. If I like, peace out. I'm going to Europe. And I come back like a day or two later. Like, oh, I'm back.
To be fair, it sounds like you got the job because they couldn't get rid of you.
That's right. No, I was super persistent. I'm not leaving. I'm coming to the office. I want to learn this system. And I think that's what he loved about it. Like, I was just, they couldn't get rid of me. So, that's how I broke into the games industry, and my European career began. So,
yeah.
How about you, Lewis?
Yeah. So for me, it was I didn't intend to end up in video games at all, actually. So I came back. I was starting to try to get back into what I was doing before, which is, writing and filmmaking, which it ended up being a really circuitous route again, because it's like, your contacts for 3 years, everybody's just kind of moved on. You know what I mean? So it's just sort of like, you can't come back to where you were, like your contacts are, are not there anymore. So, I kind of had to start over again. You know what I mean? So eventually after a few years, I was able to get, writing jobs, doing some kind of reporting work in the publishing industry of all things. Cause I found, the people I told you about who hired me back after I came out of the Army, they ran a bookshop. It's called Biography Bookshop in the West Village. So I was working there for a while. And then later on, I also, after my stint in San Francisco, I got a job at managing another bookshop called Idlewild, which is still in New York. But then through that, I made a lot of publishing contacts and was able to start doing reporting stuff for that. But then, some of my, I still was in touch with people from film, and then I ended up, I ended up producing for a friend of mine who was making documentaries in South America. So we ended up going to the Amazon River Basin for a few, taking a few trips. So yeah, one of the cool trips that we took, we spent like a week in the jungle and with like an indigenous tribe. You know what I mean? But like, people often also forget that like in the middle of the Amazon, there's this city of 2 million people called Manaus. You know what I mean? So like we also spent time there, which is really cool. And I'm still friendly with, like online at least, I'm still friends with some of the people who I met like on that trip, then meanwhile, I'm still, still doing like my own writing and stuff as well. And then, basically the way I got into games was a guy I'd known a long time. His name's Sam Strackman, but like he knew that I'd served. Like he was like a guest at my wedding, so I've known him well. I've known him a while. But like he knew I served, and he knew I'd been to like South America a few times, and he'd also seen this reading of a play I wrote like about these soldiers who were like stuck on a mountaintop in Afghanistan, right? And he's like, well, we're working on this game about like these military guys who are in like South America. Do you want to see if you can help us write some of the stuff? And the game was Ghost Recon Wildlands, right? So like at the time I didn't quite like, nobody actually understood at the time that like that the game would be like as big as it ended up being, like if you look back, like it didn't even get the amount of marketing that like a lot of the other games that came out at the time did. But like I'd heard of the franchise. I think I'd played like the one that had come like before it, like for a little bit. But then, so he brought me on, like it was pretty wild. So like the guy who gets the official writer's title is Don Winslow. He wrote Power of the Dog and, excellent writer, like revered all over the world for like, especially this kind of thriller genre stuff. Right. But then like I was part of the writing team also. So I'm like credited as additional writing. But I ended up writing like a lot of the game actually, that a lot of stuff that ended up in it. And then because of that, like, when they started working on the next one, that's when my friend Sam recommended, yeah, you shouldn't have him be a lead writer on this next one. That's when I basically like kind of stopped doing like edit, like basically focused on video games as like my thing. So, and yeah,
I think a lot of people, especially like my age, don't appreciate. And I mean, not just my age, but I think a lot of people just don't appreciate. So when they pick up, turn the Xbox on, or basically on whatever, and start playing a game, they're just playing a game.
Yeah.
So they don't appreciate that there's writers, there's designers, there's programmers. There's a whole massive it's like, you've got Hollywood, Bollywood, and then you've got the game industry, which is just as big and just as important, and just as hard.
That's right.
For you, when was the last bloody hell? The last first-person shooter I played, I think, was going back a bit, probably Battlefield 5 or something.
Okay, yeah, it's a great game.
I'm not that type of gamer. I either do flight sims or I do War Thunder. I'm forward.
There you go.
Flight sims, I like that. Like,
DCS,
I missed the joystick.
Do you play DCS at all? Any?
Can't even fucking take off in DCS.
Okay. Yeah.
No, my son bought me the Jaguar we released recently, and then what was it? Phantom. He bought me the Phantom.
Yeah, on DCS.
Yeah, on DCS.
Yeah, totally.
So I've got the old VR and everything like that, and
there you
nice.
Get it all turned on.
Yep.
I rebuilt my computer and everything.
There you go.
Spent a fortune on it. Got it settled down.
Yeah.
Right. I'm doing this, and I think I haven't got a fucking clue what I'm doing.
Yeah, it's a good little hobby you got there.
I've gone back to Microsoft Flight Simulator because I can just take off.
That's a great one.
Yeah,
that's a good one.
In VR, I've never got in Flight Sim in VR, or even. Don't judge me for this one. It was one of my favourite games I haven't played for a while. Was Euro Truck Simulator.
Yeah, hell yeah.
I love the Mud Runners one, like, and the snow one. Like, I love those ones.
I remember seeing it years ago and thinking, why?
Yeah,
exactly. Me too.
I bought American Truck Simulator too. Like, yeah, why not?
Yeah.
So I got both Euro and that. Yeah, it's great.
Yeah, I downloaded that and I went right, and I'm using the keyboard to see it. I'm thinking, that's the shit. A day later, I went down and bought a steering wheel, pedal, and new stuff. Right.
That's how they get you. That's how they get you.
The next thing I've got
Yeah,
three
no,
monitors.
it's wild. No, that's the thing. Like, I'm always kind of like, it always kind of blows me away too. This is also kind of why, like, I don't always like the really like supposedly like super accurate like shooter games too, because it's just like, why am I gonna play work? You know what I mean? So, yeah. But then, like you
it's
said,
great.
the truck simulator ones, like again, like for me, I'd really like the mud ones. You know what I mean? Because like, mudding is like a sport here.
The thing is, it's like it can take over your life though. You know, when you get something like that, you get an itch. Like I say, I went from a keyboard to all of a sudden 3 monitors. The steering
and then
wheel,
VR.
To VR,
Well, before VR, I was building dashboards with working clocks,
wow,
rev counters, and indicators, and button boxes and stuff like that. I think my wife
okay, you could have led with this fact. You're a hardcore gamer over here, Frankie.
Right.
Come on,
I would
let's hiding this stuff. What's going on?
Simulators.
Yeah.
I mean, even downstairs now. I'm in my spare bedroom. Downstairs, I've got a driving rig and everything.
Nice.
Then I'll jump on that.
Anything more hardcore?
Grandkids.
Yeah, anything more hardcore like iRacing or anything like that, or Assetto Corsa?
No, I tried Assetto Corsa. I used to play that online. Realised I was shit, so weaned off it a bit.
Yeah,
iRacing, I signed up for it. Realised I was worse at that than I was at Assetto Corsa.
yeah.
So I kind of stuck with Project Cars.
Okay, that's a good one. Yep,
Which is
I know that
a
one.
bit more arcadey type of thing, but not as bad
I was
as
the
Need for Speed.
hardcore iRacer. Yeah, I played that for I don't know how many years. Crazy. I did leagues and the whole thing. So.
Yeah, but they're taken too seriously.
Very. But that's why I liked it, because I didn't.
Yeah,
yes.
no, that's it. Yeah, I get that.
If that's what
But
you're looking for,
somebody-
it's the best
And I'm
serious sim racing. Yes, it's the best serious online sim racing you could ever find.
Yeah, I mean, Assetto Corsa for me was like, what I liked about that, there was a lot of downloadable content.
Yep.
Like,
Free
a lot of
too.
maps and stuff like that. Yeah, a lot of free stuff. Yeah. Before the days of Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020, and we used to use the old one. You know, I used to like fiddling with it in the background and reading on the forums and stuff like that, and find about how Google Maps working with it.
There you go.
For me, it was more about realism than anything else.
Yeah.
I'm not one of these guys who will go so bad as to take off, set the autopilot, sit there 14 hours while the flight was trailing. You know, and I know guys
You accelerate time though. You don't got time for that stuff. Yeah.
No, these guys don't.
No.
Yeah.
They'll literally do like a full flight from like London to Dubai or something. Like, I'm actually gonna fly it. It's like, come on.
Yeah, why?
Yeah.
Well, at least with
But
AI,
no, but that's the thing. This is the thing. This is kind of the thing that Matt and I are also considered with our own game. You know,
Yes.
So Victory's Grave Outflank, you know, it is like a PvP, like military shooter. But like we don't like there are plenty of games out there, like I think we talked about earlier, like Hell Let Loose and stuff that go like real hardcore into like kind of almost like museum, you know, it's like museum levels kind of authenticity. And I could say that because I know a guy who works in a museum who also used to do authenticity. You know what I mean? So, and he has helped us out as well. But like, not everybody wants that. You know what I mean? Like, so, like, we still want our games to like feel authentic. You know, and this is the same attitudes that we took when we were working for other people too. Like, it's got to feel authentic, like, and honest. But like at the same time, you got to be able to play it. You know?
Yeah.
So
I mean, the game that you're working on at the moment. What's it called again?
Victory's Grave Outflank.
Right.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm only asking that. One of the lads showed me the work the other day. But, that's right.
Yeah.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So it's already listed on the Steam, which is the portal, you know. So yeah, you guys can check out the trailers.
So how have you used your military background to bring this game forward and what's it? Almost realism.
yeah. So I mean, if I can, you know, keep going with that, like, you know, like Matt and I, we've worked for some big games, you know, like I was on Ghost Recon, Matt was on the Division, like we've worked on Exoborne as well, but I feel like, you know, some of the team there was they were like kind of more sympathetic to letting us have our voice as veterans, you know what I mean?
Right.
But like, for example, Ghost Recon Wildlands, like they asked for realism, you know what I mean? So I wrote it the way that like soldiers talk, you know what I mean? And like the way, like, again, like I often was doing support for special forces teams, as a combat engineer, because if you got like landmines, you're not going to send a special forces guy out there you spent like a couple $1,000,000 training on. You're going to send the guy you trained for like 11 weeks to go see if that was an IED or not, right? So that was my job. Like, we were the guys that like, oh, they're a little more expendable. So that's kind of who we were, right? So, but like, so I know those guys, like I know what they're like, and they're, I've been to some of their homes and stuff back in like the Fort Bragg or Fort Liberty area, right? So I wrote them as like very human, like realistic characters. They talk shit to each other, they curse, like, they make jokes, but then like I only like learned about this like maybe like last year or something, but like there was apparently discussions that this is kind of bending my NDA a little bit, but apparently there were just because this is rumor. Okay. I don't know if this is official. This is a rumor. Yeah. So allegedly, like they talked about just cutting everything I'd written and just rewriting it, because what they really wanted was just like this kind of like gruff, robotic, like, because that's what military people are like, right? Like they got no emotions. They're like 100% discipline. You know what I'm saying? Yeah, right. So like, and then like, so then again, that like when I became lead on Breakpoint, like one, like if that really was what they're thinking of doing, why would they make me lead on Breakpoint? But I think it's because I was able to write it all fast enough, right? But then like, so I came on as Breakpoint, like the direction kept like pushing me in like a different direction. You know what I mean? So like, like as opposed to like just writing them as like these full human beings, you know what I mean? I'm just like, no, there's just have them say exactly what's happening on the screen. Like there's a bad guy there, you know what I mean? Or like, I have to go blow this up. You know what I mean? And as opposed to like what's a human would actually say, right?
Yeah.
So like, and like more and more, that's kind of like where games are going. You know what I mean? They're leading to like the whole point of game writing is to underline the design. You know what I mean? And like even like the discussions we were having this morning, like in a PvP game, there's not lots of narrative. You know what I mean? It's not the way people traditionally think of narrative. More, it's going to be more like the context of where you're at. You know what I mean? So like, we're talking about what kinds of like flags you'd find hanging around, or like what. Okay, so this town used to be a village, but then like the Soviets were there. So what does that look like now? You know what I mean? That's where the storytelling comes in. But even just in terms of like the dialogue, the things that we say, we're not going to be like, oh no, I got shot. You know what I mean? Which is like, which is like, that was kind of like the things people wanted to say and wanted me to write. You know what I mean? Like tell them, you're getting shot, get out of the way of the bullets. You know what I mean? But instead, like I wrote it as like, get down, dumbass. You know what I mean? Like what you would actually say to somebody who was, yeah. So, but so that's from at least, from the narrative side, that's where we're going. But like Matt, if you want to go on like the design side of what we're doing. Yeah.
Yeah. So a lot of the stuff that just like bits and pieces of what I learned from like just basic training, just basic rifleman training in the U.S. Army. And you might get a kick out of this. It's just like we Americans love to blast ammo at the enemy and just mag dump on everything. So I was just like, we kind of were trained to do some of that in basic training. It was like, so what really stuck out to me, and I love Matt just holding down the trigger, just going crazy. It's just, I love it. So what stuck to me is
because we can't afford the ammo.
That's it. Like, the factories are
he's
right,
talking
right
about
downtown.
In his backyard. Is what he's talking about.
The factory.
We're not allowed to.
Yeah.
So for me, it's just like, okay, like this whole aspect of what it meant to actually, like, I read a lot of World War II books and even like books about the Korean War, and like listening to the way like Patton talked during World War II, it's like he just wanted to dominate the battlefield with volumes of fire, and this is what the U.S. Army was trained to do during World War II. We're still kind of reminiscent of that nowadays, but I always thought that this was just a really cool game idea, like a game aspect, is to just dominate the enemy with firepower, like to control the battlefield, and then you get into this kind of like. I'll take us back even further, the Revolutionary War, like the Civil War for the Brits, like the American Civil War, where it's like, you got the redcoats. They're standing there, but they're delivering volumes of fire, and then you have the the Minutemen, the U.S. Army are just firing back. It's red team, blue team, and you're kind of controlling the battlefield. And so a lot of these like ideas just stuck out to me. It's like you want to fix the enemy, and then flank them and finish them. The 3 Fs. It's like, okay, cool. And how do we do this in a video game? In a lot of games, they only really make you feel like a soldier at a firing range. No one's shooting back at you. You're just shooting at a stationary target, pop, pop, pop. Like, it's very simple. Like, there's no fear factor, there's no adrenaline, there's no heart race, there's nothing like this. So for me, it's just like, man, I really think that there's a set piece army style warframe that we could create through game design to kind of allow teams to choreograph flanking maneuvers and discuss strategy on the fly. And I've always loved Saving Private Ryan. And like, if you've ever seen Band of Brothers, the scenes that particularly stick with me is, I think it's Carentan. It's the Battle of the Bloody Gulch, where it's like the Germans are in their hedgerow, the Americans are in theirs, and they bring in the tanks, and the American Shermans show up. And they're all just kind of like fighting across the hedgerow, and like the commanders are using the binoculars and coordinating where they need the fields of fight. Like, that sort of stuff I love, but how do you create that in a video game? A lot of games just do it wrong, in my opinion, and I've always felt this way, like ever since like I can remember when anyone ever added any kind of like suppressed and fire teamwork aspect. It just all felt off. Like it just didn't feel like this would make a nice choreographed battle that you'd feel like a sense of, like, wow, we really worked to win that fight, as opposed to just one dude headshot, which is where I think like guys like you and Lewis and me, like, we're getting a bit older, so we don't have the time to get like all sweaty and into a game such as that to get good, right? It takes months, if not years, to really become a professional. And then if you're not good and you're on a team, everyone's going to be like, oh, come on, Lewis, you suck. What are you doing? Like, and then you're just gonna be like, I don't want to play. Like, I'm here to enjoy this. And so for me, it's like trying to find that medium, that balance in there was for me the key. Always been hanging on to this idea. I had this idea ever since I was deployed to Iraq in 2003. I was just writing it down. It's evolved, of course, over time, but it's still held true. And it's coming together. I'm just trying to, like, again, get something that young and old, good and bad, and then like team and individual can actually get together and focus on and play and feel like, you know what, I contributed something. I didn't get all the kills, but you know what, I suppressed the enemy for long enough for them to capture the objective and win.
Yeah, and like one of the things I also like about it too is like the types of strategies that you would have in most like PvP esports. They're not realistic like strategies at all. You know what I mean? They're like, I'm going to jump over this balcony and slide through this like tunnel and then pop out here. You know what I mean? Whereas like with the things we're setting up, it does feel authentic. You know what I mean? Like you do, like the game is set up for like this kind of basic like flanking maneuver kind of thing. You know what I mean? That's what it's called, outflank, right? But there, like some games, that they do just focus on just strategy, you know what I mean? But then you never get the actual like shooting part of it. And the ones that focus on the shooting part of it, they don't really have strategy. So we're trying to get both of that in there. And then right now, one of the things too that we're also trying to work in is actually logistical. You know what I mean? And that's like a whole thing.
Right.
Say like you understand that, but like gamers, they don't get it. You know what I mean? They just think, I got as many bullets and lives as I want. You know what I mean? But like, if you have to manage your resources with your team as part of your strategy before you go in and start shooting, then that's a whole other aspect that like, that can add to your overall like strategies and tactics. So
I'll put it this way. I would love to see that in a game, right?
Yeah.
The reason being is I interviewed a guy last year, right? And he was given the task of going in first over a wall into a compound. It was the first contacted beating. He got a bit excited and did what we call the yank fire.
Yeah, there you go.
Right? And then ran up and ran forward. Yeah. And when he got into the compound, he went, click.
Yep.
Ran out forward. And it was only because the guy was behind him.
Yeah.
He dragged him back and then started shooting. They give him time to reload.
Yeah.
And shit happens in real life.
Yeah,
for sure.
It never happens in a movie.
Yeah,
And now I'd like to see it happen in a game. That would be quite funny. I mean,
absolutely.
Yeah. No, actually, that happened in our last play test. Like Matt was actually coming in trying to get the objective, and then he only like was able to kill me because I was in the middle of reloading. You know what I mean? So, yeah.
I mean, is it going to be the game? Is it? I'd say I sign up for the game and I start playing it, and then I can I play it on my own, or do I actually need another bunch of guys to come and be in a squad and stuff like that?
Currently, yeah, it's a team-based game. So think of, have you played Rainbow Six Siege? Have you tried this at all? Or do you know of it?
No, I know of it. I've not played it.
5v5. But the whole aspect is we're in our current setting is Eastern Europe, very rolling hills in the very rural aspect. We're not like in the Soviet bloc or whatever. We're not in the downtown, Kiev or anything like this. Like we're in the middle of the countryside. And so for me, I'm trying to really set up the opportunity to really feel like you are in a long distance firefight, and how do we maintain the length of that to feel fun and authentic, but not like, oh, this is just, spamming bullets at each other. There's actually a rhyme and a reason to it. And so for me, it's I've always been in love with like strategy games like Rome Total War or Empire Total War, and all this, like these like high level strategic strategies put into practice. And then how do we bring that down to the micro? How do we have like you, Frankie, just suppress the enemy, just throw lead their way. That'll mess with their character. That'll mess with their composure. And that will allow me to run across an open field while under the cover of fire. Once I reach cover, I'll do the same for you. And so that you can bound up to me and we can do this kind of bounding. Yeah. Games usually you have to either fixate on one guy, one target to suppress that one guy. But it's just like we're not trying to recreate a war role-playing game, or like we're not trying to like go super hardcore and like reenactment level stuff. Like Lewis said, we're not trying to make a museum, simulator. It's just like we want a game that's fun, but recreate the aspects of what like being in a long distance, long range firefight means. You can either mag dump, or you can be as sneaky as you want. You can work as like a full fledged power unit, just delivering heavy hardcore firepower like the U.S. Army would do back in the day, or just be SCS soldiers and crawls through some bushes and try to flank around and get the drop on the enemy. Like it's totally possible. So for us, it's allowing players to choose, and then it becomes like I use American football terms, but I guess like in football terms, it's like Liverpool versus Man United. Like they're different teams, but different styles of play. Maybe they're more spread or like less aggressive. They do a lot of crosses and stuff. Whereas one other team is more aggressive. They want to get the ball into the box as fast as possible. They want to counterattack immediately. So it's the same game, but different play styles. And how do you execute those larger strategies down to the micro? That's
But it's just to address what you're saying too about the single player thing, like with the games. So like Ghost Recon that I worked on, like most of my work was, a lot of my work ended up being like on kind of the single player stuff, though I did also do work on the multiplayer stuff. But I realized like after the game came out that like not everybody plays all the game. You know what I mean? So like I almost never played the PvP stuff. It was like too hard and my internet connection was always garbage, right? But then there were some people who went like really deep into the PvP, especially like Future Soldier. Like people still talk about how much they love PvP and Future Soldier, right? But then so we realized like as a studio, like a lot of AAA companies, like a lot of AAA games, they are basically failing. You know what I mean? Because they're trying to be all things to all players. Yep. So we're like, well, let's not do that, but we can still like give something to all players. So like this first game, Victory's Grave Outflank is, this is the PvP game. Later this year, we're trying to like ramp up so that we can get into pre-production on like the more single player, more narrative game, and the creative director who's attached to that right now, his name's Christian Devine. He wrote the Life is Strange games, and we worked together on Dying Light 2. So, that will be something that like, so people can still enjoy this like world that we've created with Victory's Grave. But if PvP isn't for them, they'll be able to enter there. But then if people want to do both, then they also get to play both. You know what I mean? So for us, it's like, we don't want players like as players, we don't like paying for stuff that we don't even play. You know what I mean? Like I use the example, it's like cable TV in the States. You know what I mean? Like I just want to watch like this channel called TNT where they have like Clint Eastwood movies playing all the time, right? But then like I don't want to watch like CNN like all the time. You know what I mean? But if I get cable, I got to pay for all of it. You know what I'm saying? Yeah. So we're breaking them up. So it'll also be, hopefully more affordable. You know what I mean? For each person, for each gamer. But then if they buy them both, then okay, that's great for them. It's great for everyone.
That's the other thing I was going to touch on. You mentioned it earlier about age. You know what I mean? So like for me, when I used to play like Call of Duty and stuff like that, I would never imagine going online and playing against other, playing against 12-year-olds who were just going to slaughter them.
Yeah.
I liked the single player, the narrative, the story, and playing that side of it. Like I mentioned, I play War Thunder, right? Mm-hmm. I never come top of the line, top of the game, the bottom end, but I enjoy it. That's something I enjoy.
Exactly.
One thing I've never seen done very well in any of the games is artillery. Call player and stuff like that. I've never seen that done really well in a game.
You'll love. My basic training was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma.
I am biased about artillery.
Yes,
remember,
so am I, but I am too. So my basic training was in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which is the United States home of field artillery. And so during basic training, like we got an awesome live fire demonstration from some howitzers that still sticks with me to this day. And I got such a I'll keep it clean. It's such a good vibe for artillery. Because when I saw that demonstration, it shows how primitive yet how advanced we are in the same moment. Mm-hmm. Like that explosion, that hard concussion, but then you can literally watch that round zooming through the air. Like I saw it flying. And then you think back, like if you're like some Roman soldier watching some catapult, send some rock over a wall, it's like it ain't that far off, but it's just like there's a bigger bang at the start and at the finish of the whole deal. It's just like, and then I just love the whole, like, again, the emotion that it brings of when I was in Iraq, like we thought that we were under fire, and spoiler alert, we were not, but we thought we were from our own artillery. And it's, Americans were not so, we love our friendly fire, if you know what I mean. So
yeah. Let's not go into that one.
Yeah. No, for sure. But so it was an MLRS, so it was a multiple launch rocket system that's shooting up in the middle of the night. And I remember walking back to my foxhole, and somebody the rocket was taking off in the distance. It absolutely dead looked like it was coming right for us. It was like arcing up through the air, but it was going the opposite way. But we didn't know that. And somebody shouted, "Incoming!" And it's like, holy shit. Jump in the foxhole, and just my heart was thumping through my chest. Like I was like, oh my, where's it gonna land? I have no idea. And it's like, then you see like the rocket engine kind of die off, and you see like it burn out. You see it like slowly fade into blackness of the night. It's like, all clear. It's like, oh my God, like, wow.
Well,
like,
So in Iraq in 2003, it was the first time. So we had guns called AS-90, and they're 155mm, much the same size as them howitzers that you've seen.
Yeah.
And them howitzers came from UK.
Yeah. If it's a good piece of equipment, we'll use it. No problem.
Yeah, we sold it you. We never bought it.
There you go. It's like the Bofors. We still use it. That's a Swedish cannon, isn't it?
Swedish, yeah.
Yeah.
So it was the first time we'd fired what we call the RBS, which is extended range bomblet, and it doesn't have a tracer in it, but it's in the base there is I can't remember the technical term, but let's call it a tracer. It looks like a tracer. It extends the range of the shell due to aerodynamics. And when you fire it, it looks like a tracer. So can you imagine like a whole regiment, 4 batteries, 8 guns,
wow,
5 rounds, followed by 5 rounds, followed by 5 rounds.
Yeah.
At night.
Yeah.
Firing that, right? We were coming out. We were in the other vehicles and coming out, and I was videoing it. And I'll always remember one of the officers coming out. We'd never seen it before. We'd never fired it on in training.
Yeah.
And all of a sudden, bang! It was like the second night, and everything went up in the air, and all the air was, oh, wow. It was
Yes.
just this like really deep, dark blue sky with guns miles away from each other, and then we're watching, and they were all going to the same target. So you just had all these shells going through the air, just
Yep.
going on, and you were just like, right. What impressed me even more about that was when I was speaking to some of the infantry guys afterwards, and they'd called for fire, and they heard it coming, and they looked up, and they could still see that through the sky. That like trace.
Got to be a sight to see,
and
man. Oh.
He said it made them feel safe.
Yeah, I bet.
You know what I mean?
I bet.
Hell, you know, as much as being on the other end of artillery is not a very nice thing.
Absolutely.
When you know you're giving it to someone else.
Yeah.
Cool. You know,
it's called the king of battle for no reason. Like it controls the battlefield.
Somehow get that in your game. I want to.
Yeah, no.
I want to call for fire. Look up and see them coming
See
over.
You'll be happy to know it's already there. I made
we already have you can call for fire.
Yes, and you can watch that round fly right onto your target. It's beautiful.
So, how long have you actually been working on it now? Then?
Yeah, for last year and about year and a quarter.
Yeah, like we're incorporated at the end of 2023. You know, so it's just been going, like we got our first playable prototype in like August of last year, right, Matt?
Yeah,
and then
that's right.
So now we're working on the vertical slice, which is just like that, like one level basically of the game.
Yeah.
But you know, we're hoping to get funding so that we can get to early access release, hopefully like within like a year.
Yeah.
So right now we are doing a raise, like an equity raise for our for this game, for our studio. So
well, I hope you use this to try and raise equity. I'll just cut me out of it, you know what I mean?
There you go.
Because they'll be like, fucking Jose.
No, man. No, absolutely.
They don't know about games.
Come on.
They'll hear you about your simulators and be like, oh, this game might be too hardcore.
Yeah. We might be too casual for you. I don't know.
Yeah, exactly. But yeah.
No, well, it's been an hour and 45 minutes. I think I've took up enough more time.
Beautiful. This is great.
We've really enjoyed it. So.
It's getting late in the mother country, you know. So,
true.
And you have got things to do. But honestly, I just want to say thank you for coming on, and it's been a pleasure meeting in Peria.
Likewise. Thank you.
I'm looking forward to this game.
Thanks. So
I don't think that, but I am.
No, it's great. We love your support. So if I can just say real quick, you know, so we're our studios, Old Glory Studios. You know, our website's www.oldglorystudios.us, and the game is called Victory's Grave Outflank.
Wishlisted on Steam. Yeah, go for it.
Yeah. And and if you do want to help support us, you know, as we're trying to raise funds, go to the website. Again, it's oldglorystudios.us. And you know, there you'll find more information about us there.
We will. I'll put it on the show notes when I put this out.
Oh, wonderful!
I'll put
Appreciate
some teasers out next week. And you never.
Excellent.
And the two young lads I work with, I'll make them do it.
There you go.
Yeah, make them wish list too. Right?
They will be tomorrow. Don't worry.
There you go.
Right, awesome. I'll end the recording now. Then again, thanks for coming on. It's been a pleasure speaking to the Peria. Honestly, thank you for coming on.
Yeah,
thank you.
Right.
I hope you enjoyed that podcast. I enjoyed recording it. If you could just hit the like button, and also if you could subscribe and hit the notification bell, that'd be great, because it'll help the channel grow. The more people will see it, the bigger it'll get, and the more guests I can get on, and the more people I can talk to. Well, I hope you enjoyed it, like I said. Look forward to the next one. Hopefully we'll be out next week as normal. Bye-bye now.
Pull up a sandbag, swing that old lamp low. There's tales in the silence that only vets know. From deserts and jungles to skies far and wide, Frankie's pot's where the stories reside. Boots in the mud, hearts in the fray, letters from home that never could say what the eyes of a soldier remember at night, now told in a voice clear and right. So lean back, mate, let the stories flow. In Frankie's pod, the real ones show. With a laugh or a tear, we honor the brave. Every voice a memory we save. Pull up a sandbag, it's your turn to speak. Where silence once stood, now stories leak. A compass of memories, scarred but true. Each tale a tribute to what they've been through. Not just the glory, the pain speaks too, but in every word, their courage shines through. No medals here, just a mic and a name. But in this circle, it's all the same. A brother, a sister, a comrade in arms. Every tale told holds wisdom and charms. So lean back, mate, let the stories flow. In Frankie's pod, the real ones show. With a laugh or a tear, we honor the brave. Every voice a memory we save. Pull up a sandbag, it's your turn to speak. Where silence once stood, now stories leak. From dawn's early light to the eve's gentle sigh, their spirits live on in the stories that fly. Through struggles and triumphs they stand side by side. In Frankie's pod, where their hearts still abide. So here's to the ones who've walked through the fire. With every sandbag we lift them higher. In the warmth of this space, together we'll stand, sharing our tales hand in hand.